worth it. Remember?
I'm a real mom.
But you know what it got me thinking about? Meghan and Harry's travel safe obsession. Now, of course, we should all travel safe. That's a relatively normal thing to say. No big deal. Not trying to make mountains out of molehills or anything like that. Not like the Meg does.
It's late December 2025, just days before the new year, and a quiet decision inside the UK government may have just detonated a bomb inside Prince Harry's marriage. After years of court losses, public frustration, and being told he could not safely bring his children back to Britain, Harry has finally received approval for a full security risk assessment. For the first time since stepping away from royal life, the door to his homeland is no longer slammed shut. It's cracked open, and that changes everything. But while this development should be a relief, reports suggest it has triggered chaos behind closed doors in Montecito. Insiders claim Meghan Markle is furious at the idea that Harry might now have the option to return to the UK, not just for short visits, but potentially for something more permanent. According to multiple reports, she has made her position brutally clear. She will never move back to Britain. And if Harry chooses the UK over California, the marriage may not survive it, and that's where this story takes a darker turn. Sources whisper that Harry is finally beginning to recognize a troubling pattern, one that explains why he's been kept distant from his family, his country, and even the life he once knew. As security barriers fall away, the real issue is no longer safety. It's control. And with 2026 approaching fast, many believe we're watching the final breaking point of a marriage that was quietly unraveling long before this moment ever arrived. For years, Prince Harry has been fighting a battle most people never see, and it all comes down to security. When he stepped away from his role as a working royal, his automatic police protection in the UK was removed almost immediately. That decision didn't just affect him. It affected whether he could safely bring his children back to the country where he grew up, where his family still lives, and where half of their identity comes from. Harry challenged that decision again and again. He took the British government to court, arguing that without proper protection, returning to the UK with Archie and Lilibet was simply too risky. Each time, the courts ruled against him. The message was clear: if you're no longer a working royal, you don't get royal-level security. For years, that loss became the central excuse for why Britain was off-limits for his family. But then something quietly changed. On December 8, 2025, reports revealed that the UK Home Office approved a full security risk assessment for Harry. Not a symbolic gesture. Not a PR move. A real reassessment of his threat level for the first time since 2020. Royal experts described it as a turning point, saying that while nothing was guaranteed yet, the trajectory had finally shifted in Harry's favor. This wasn't security being handed back automatically, but it was the government acknowledging that circumstances evolve, threats change, and the door Harry had been pushing against for years was no longer sealed shut. And with that door cracking open, the narrative that it was too dangerous to return to Britain suddenly started to collapse. And once that excuse weakened, a much more uncomfortable question emerged. If safety is no longer the problem, what is? What should have been a moment of relief for Prince Harry quickly turned into a source of explosive tension inside his marriage. According to multiple reports, the approval of that security risk assessment didn't just reopen the door to Britain. It exposed a fault line that had been hidden for years. Sources claim Meghan Markle reacted strongly to the news, making it clear she has no interest in returning to the UK under any circumstances. California, according to people close to the situation, is where she sees her life, her career, and her future. Britain, on the other hand, is a place she has repeatedly associated with emotional distress and personal trauma. From her perspective, going back isn't an option, it's a threat. That's where the conflict deepens. Reports suggest Harry doesn't just miss the UK. He misses who he was there, his family, his sense of belonging. And now, with security no longer being the automatic barrier, the conversation inside their home has reportedly shifted from "we can't" to "we could." That change, insiders say, has made everything more volatile. Some outlets even claim Meghan has drawn a hard line, telling Harry that if he chooses to spend significant time in Britain or worse, considers a permanent return, he'll be doing it alone. No compromises, no trial period, just a choice. The UK or the marriage. Whether that ultimatum was set exactly that way isn't something we can verify. But what's clear is this: the security approval removed the last external obstacle, and what's left is a deeply personal standoff. And that standoff didn't appear overnight, it's part of a pattern that's been quietly unfolding since the moment they left royal life behind. To understand why this moment feels so decisive, you have to look at what's actually happened over the past 5 years. Not the statements, not the interviews, the behavior. And the pattern is hard to ignore. Since stepping away from royal duties in 2020, Meghan Markle has reportedly returned to the UK only twice. Both visits happened in 2022, and neither was optional. First came Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, then the Queen's funeral later that same year. High-profile events, global attention, an obligation she couldn't realistically avoid without severe backlash. Outside of those two moments, she hasn't been back. Every other time Prince Harry has returned to Britain, he's gone alone. His father's coronation in 2023 solo. Court hearings tied to his security fight solo. Memorials, anniversaries, private visits again alone. Year after year, the same outcome. Harry returns. Meghan stays in California. Royal commentators have pointed out that this isn't about scheduling conflicts or childcare. If it were, we'd see at least occasional overlap. Instead, what's emerged is a consistent refusal to engage with the UK unless absolutely forced. And that consistency is what has fueled growing speculation about deeper reasons behind her absence. Because when a country is truly off-limits emotionally, not just logistically, it usually means the resistance runs far deeper than convenience. And according to sources, Harry has begun asking himself a question that changes everything. Why is Britain the one place they can never go together? And once that question is asked, it's impossible not to start connecting dots that had been ignored for years. This is where the conversation shifts from visible behavior to what's being quietly whispered behind the scenes. And to be clear, what follows is based on reports, insider claims, and online speculation, not confirmed fact. But it's the consistency of these claims that has kept them alive. According to multiple sources, Harry is reportedly beginning to question the story he's been told for years about why Britain had to be cut off completely. The official explanation was always safety and mental well-being. But rumors suggest there may be another fear at play: loss of control over the narrative. Insiders claim that if Harry spends extended time in the UK, especially with his children, certain long-standing claims could be challenged. If Archie and Lilibet form real relationships with their grandfather, with their cousins, and with the wider royal family, it becomes harder to portray that world as entirely cold, hostile, or dangerous. And once those bonds exist, they can't be undone with words alone. Reports also suggest that positive experiences in Britain could lead Harry to reassess past events and conversations. Not dismiss them entirely, but re-examine them. And that possibility, according to speculation, is what truly worries Meghan. Not tabloids, not optics, but the idea that Harry might see his family and his homeland through his own eyes again, rather than through the lens he's been given. None of this can be proven definitively, But when behavior, timing, and rising tension all align, it creates a question that refuses to go away. And that question is now sitting at the center of their marriage, growing louder with every passing week. Sometimes it isn't a dramatic announcement that signals change. Sometimes it's a single word. And in Prince Harry's case, that word set off alarms across royal watching circles. In November, Harry published a piece on the Sussex's official platform reflecting on British identity, service, and community. On the surface, it read like a nostalgic tribute. But one line stood out immediately. He wrote that currently he lives in the United States, while emphasizing that Britain is the country he proudly served and fought for. That phrasing wasn't accidental. Royal statements are scrutinized line by line, especially when they come from someone as legally and publicly entangled as Harry. If America were his permanent home, there would have been no need for a qualifier. But currently suggests something temporary, transitional, like someone leaving the door open on purpose. Commentators noted that this wasn't how Harry had spoken in previous years. Earlier messaging leaned heavily into permanence, building a life, planting roots, starting over. This time, the language shifted. Subtly, but unmistakably. And for many observers, it read like preparation. Not for an announcement, but for the idea of one. Reports claim Meghan was not pleased by the attention that line received. Whether that reaction was about public scrutiny or what the wording implied privately isn't clear. But what is clear is that Harry's own words began reinforcing what insiders had been hinting at for months. And once palace watchers noticed the shift, it raised an even bigger question. If Harry is already thinking in temporary terms, what conversations are happening behind closed doors right now? Not long after Harry's language began raising eyebrows, another report surfaced that added a much darker layer to the story. According to multiple outlets, Buckingham Palace is no longer treating the Sussex situation as stable. Instead, insiders claim contingency plans are quietly being discussed behind closed doors in case Harry returns to the UK without Meghan. To be clear, there has been no public confirmation of this. No official statements. No filings. But reports suggest palace aides are thinking several steps ahead, not out of optimism, but necessity. When children, international custody laws, and royal security intersect, the institution plans for every outcome, even the uncomfortable ones. Sources claim these preparations focus heavily on the children, ensuring Archie and Lilibet could maintain a relationship with their British family if circumstances change, establishing security protocols, considering logistical and legal frameworks. Not because a split has been announced, but because the possibility is now being taken seriously. That alone speaks volumes. The palace is known for ignoring rumors until they're unavoidable. So when reports suggest planning is underway, it implies that Harry's desire to reconnect with Britain isn't being dismissed as wishful thinking. It's being treated as a real scenario that could reshape everything. And if those reports are accurate, it means something critical has shifted behind the scenes. Because institutions don't prepare for hypotheticals, unless someone close to the situation believes they may soon become reality. And that belief suggests Harry's internal conflict has moved far beyond quiet frustration and into decision-making territory. According to insiders, this is the point where things stop being theoretical for Prince Harry. What once felt like distance caused by circumstance is now being reinterpreted as something far more deliberate. And that realization, sources claim, has been deeply unsettling. Reports suggest Harry has begun looking back at the past 5 years and noticing who slowly disappeared from his life. Friends from his military days, long-standing personal connections, even family members who once served as emotional anchors. One by one, those relationships faded, often framed as necessary losses for peace, safety, or progress. At the time, it may have felt justified. Now, insiders say it feels coordinated. Analysts who follow high-profile relationships describe this pattern as isolation, where outside voices are removed until only one perspective remains dominant. To be clear, no professional diagnosis has been made, and these claims remain speculative. But sources allege Harry is recognizing that every person who might have challenged certain narratives was eventually pushed out of reach. What's reportedly hitting him hardest is the timing. As he returns to the UK more frequently, nothing catastrophic happens. The country doesn't collapse around him. His family, despite years of tension, shows signs of openness. The danger he was warned about doesn't materialize in the way he was led to expect, and once that contradiction becomes impossible to ignore, it forces a painful question. If the threats were exaggerated to keep him away, then what else was shaped to influence his choices? That question, sources say, is now sitting at the center of Harry's thoughts, and it's changing how he views everything. As the path back to Britain becomes clearer. Reports suggest the tension has reached its most personal and painful point. Sources claim Meghan has allegedly issued an ultimatum. If Harry wants to spend meaningful time in the UK, he may have to do it without her. The stakes, according to these claims, aren't just about the adults, they're about the children. Insiders say Meghan is reportedly leveraging California residency laws to maintain primary custody if a separation occurs, arguing that Archie and Lilibet are settled in American schools with established routines and friendships. This, reports claim, effectively gives her control over whether Harry can reconnect his children with Britain. Some suggest she is using these legal and logistical realities to hold influence over decisions about family life, keeping Harry from following through on plans to visit relatives or explore schooling options in the UK. The speculation, framed carefully, paints a picture of a standoff where Harry is forced to weigh his homeland and family connections against the potential breakdown of his marriage. Every report emphasizes that no divorce filings have been made, and nothing is officially confirmed, but insiders indicate that the tension has reached what some are calling a breaking point. The December 8th security approval, which opened the door to a safe UK return, reportedly triggered this clash. Now, every excuse previously given to justify staying in California is being challenged. The approval removes the too dangerous barrier, and suddenly Harry is confronted with a choice that's as emotional as it is practical. Stay isolated with his family in California, or return to Britain and risk everything. And according to sources, the moment of reckoning is fast approaching. It's not just about a move, it's about realizing what may have been controlling his life all along. The question now is whether Harry will act on it, even if it means going alone. As 2026 approaches, every piece of this story seems to be converging. Prince Harry now has a clear path back to Britain for the first time in years, thanks to the security approval that removed what had long been the primary barrier. The palace, according to reports, is quietly preparing for every possible scenario, from custody arrangements to security protocols, signaling that they take the possibility of his return seriously, even if Meghan refuses to come. Sources claim the tension inside Harry's marriage has reached a breaking point. Allegedly, Meghan has spent years influencing where he lives, whom he sees, and how his children are raised, all while presenting it as protection or necessity. And now, with those barriers lifted, Harry is reportedly beginning to see the reality behind the patterns. Isolation, control, and manipulation may have shaped decisions he thought were his own. No official announcement has been made. No divorce has been filed. But everything from Harry's careful public language to palace preparations to the alleged standoff over the children suggests that we are watching the final chapter of this marriage play out in real time. Whether Harry ultimately chooses his wife, his homeland, or a delicate balance between the two. One thing is clear: 2026 is set to be a defining year. It may very well be the year he reclaims his roots, reconnects his children with their heritage, and finally confronts the truth about the life he's been living. And for the first time in years, the question on everyone's mind is no longer whether he can go home, it's whether he will have the courage to do so.